Hello, everyone. I think we're live at this point, and I would love to welcome everybody and anybody to our less than typical Sunday version of Political Recap. I am Trups LP, and as always, I am joined by the lovely moistness himself, Omegon. Say hello, Omegon.
Hello.
How is Omegon?
I'm alright. Bit warm, but it'd be a lot cooler if I face my fan to
Are
me.
you guys still experiencing that heat wave?
Yes, and we'll do it tomorrow as well. But that's okay. I have air conditioning, so I don't care.
Wonderful, wonderful.
How about yourself?
Um, I'm it's Sunday, so it's actually my one day off from work.
Day off? You? Never.
One. I get one a
Jeez.
day.
One.
One a week,
One
sorry.
a day. Wow.
I wish I got one. That'd be
And
great.
I've done that for 4 years. It wasn't great. It was gets boring very fast.
Yeah, yeah, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but luckily in next week I get an extended break from work, well
Mhm.
needed.
Okay.
Yes, I get to attend a convention
Convention.
Thursday through Monday. So
A,
I will be
a
I'll be
convention.
out
That sounds
of
like fun.
uh, yeah, I'm going to Dragon Con.
Dragon Con. I'm not too. I don't. We don't have many cons over here, so.
Comic book, anime, actually it's really kind of not even one convention. It's a whole bunch of different fandoms come together for this thing. Um I mean, last year they had Ric Flair as
Really?
one of the guests. Yes.
That's cool.
Yes, I saw Ric Flair. That was insane.
Do you get a picture?
Um, no, he charged like $50.
That doesn't surprise me, because that guy is not wealthy anymore.
However, I did get to meet the voice actresses for Mercy and Diva from Overwatch, and I actually have a hat, a Soldier 76 hat, signed. Well, not really signed by the Diva voice actress, but it says "Hey Daddy-O," which is one of her voice lines in a very specific skin.
Okay.
She chose to put that line. I didn't tell her.
I
and I appreciated it.
Eddie on my server, he's been telling me I should get Overwatch to play with him, and I've
It's
watched him.
fun.
It looks like fun, but I'm not a very good PvP person. I struggle with
It's okay.
Rocket League. Okay. I'm not shooting people, defending others, teamwork. Got me mad.
I know, very, very difficult. As it turns out, people who play the game also have equal difficulty.
I know, because Eddie was streaming for so long, I watched some incredibly salty people get very cross at him when he pointed out how useless they
Oh,
were.
all the time.
Like, they're just useless, and they were lording it over everyone else. It was very funny.
Let's see
Before we get into this,
who's the guest.
hello, Blade, Karma, Stargazer, Moggy, Joe, I was H and Natalia. I'm not even going to try. Nat. Great Sky Troll. Hope you're all having a lovely Sunday. Do apologise this wasn't on Friday. I wasn't very well-ish on Friday, and yesterday I was injured. Let's go with that. But we're not anymore, so it's fine.
Oh, actually, here's a couple of the guests of honor at this year's Dragon Con.
Okay.
David Tennant
Okay, David Tennant.
and
Gotcha.
George Takei.
Ah.
I'm not as much of a fan, but I respect his work. Um,
So his
yeah,
catchphrase,
those are the ones that I'm
essentially.
immediately look.
You still there?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm
Jeez, I thought you'd gone quiet because something had gone wrong.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I was concerned. Well, that's pretty cool then. You can have some fun.
Yeah, I am going to try and get an autograph from David Tennant.
Yes, I'd be very disappointed if you didn't get one from David Tennant. That'd be very disappointing.
10-inch.
Yeah, it's a running gag from when he was Doctor, from Billy Piper.
Yes, well, I'm going to try, and I'll see who else is going to go see.
If you could get one for me,
Who
that'd be
hasn't
great. If it costs $50 though, don't even bother.
I will do my best. I may get try to get a video of him saying hello, Megan.
That happens. That's going in my videos in perpetuity.
good. Oh, Carrie Elwes, the actor from The Princess Bride, he's also going to be there, and Lou Ferrigno.
Was he Carrie Ellis? Was that the farm boy,
Yes, the main character.
the guy from the Saw movie?
Yes, Stranger Things, Princess Bride, Robin Hood, Men in Tights. So yeah.
Yeah. That guy is that's cool. I watched that film not so long ago. I do apologise that we've been talking about other stuff for 5 minutes, but it's been a while. I watched that film and I thought it was hadn't seen it until earlier this year. I thought it was the single cringiest thing I'd seen, and then I watched Robin Hood Men in Tights and realised, oh no, it gets much worse.
He's. I think you played the character in The Princess Bride very well.
Good
but that's
evening,
just
Stanton
personal.
High. Hope you're well. I think he's a fantastic actor. Would you like to start with your Rashida Tlaib thing, since it obviously is a little old, but it's interesting?
Yeah, we can do that.
I've got the letter on the screen for anyone who's interested. You probably have the full screen to read it. Do you want to explain what this letter is about?
Yes. So, Rashida Tlaib, about 10 days or so ago, had attempted to petition the Israeli government to be allowed to go and visit Israel and Israel proper,
Why?
to visit her grandmother, her very old grandmother.
Damn, she must. No offense, but she must be in her 80s.
She apparently is in her 90s and lives in
Jeez.
the West Bank.
Now that's impressive for a very obvious reason. Yes, that's amazing. Okay, so
And
why was she blocked?
she was. Sorry, go ahead.
Why was she blocked?
She wasn't.
Oh.
She was actually allowed by the Israel government.
Oh.
Yes, she was allowed because the letter she wrote, and as on screen, reads as follows. I would like to request admittance to Israel in order to visit my relatives, and specifically my grandmother, who is in her 90s and lives in the Beit Ur al-Foka. Sure. I believe that's West Bank. This could be my last opportunity to see her. I will respect any restrictions and will not promote boycotts against Israel during my visit. Thank you, Rashida Tlaib.
Hang on. Promote boycotts against Israel during my visit, so before and post is fine. Good to
Yes,
know.
she says she will respect any restrictions and will not promote boycotts.
During her visit. That's interesting. I
Well,
also
that's the interesting part because she has made comments while she's been a sitting congresswoman, of which she has openly tried to dissuade people from supporting Israel and instead trying to support the BDS movement.
what is that?
The BDS movement is essentially the Palestinians' like defense group, basically saying that the Israelis had taken over their land unjustly.
Right.
Is essentially the sentiment they go for.
They have a point to that, don't they?
Kinda, I suppose, if you think that if you think that in the early years after Christ, and by that I mean the first several hundred years, in which the Muslims had taken the entire what was the Fertile Crescent by blood and sword. Yeah, I guess you could say they unjustly took their land.
There's a big historical argument there, isn't there? Jeez. You can tell how much
Oh
I
no,
pay attention.
it's historically accurate.
No, I mean in the sense that you can
After,
tell how much I don't know because I just don't know any of this.
Oh yes.
I don't pay attention
the
to
the
this.
idea was essentially that Muhammad, after having gone back after his understanding of Allah, he came back to, I guess what would be Mecca still, yeah, and told everyone who was worshiping the cube, which contained idols of their gods, that their gods were false, and the people of Mecca said, "Screw off," sent him up to Medina. Well, he then gathered an army and stormed Mecca, killed everybody who didn't, surrender, and then took over that area. Over the next 100 or so years, they expanded and expanded until eventually you had the Moors in Spain. You had, you eventually had a crusade. There was
Demonetized.
a lot. Well, I mean, sure, History Channel's got demonetized, so why not?
It can't be doing
This
that.
isn't even contentious. This is just true.
It is a long historical thing, I guess. I would only go based on the recent information, but I don't know the historical stuff, which goes back so far that, quite frankly, at this point, I'm more than happy to just ignore it.
If not, if it's not relevant, it's at least a curious
It is
thing to
interesting.
take note of.
By the way, I'm looking at a
And I'm
picture.
sure if you really wanted to know, Carlos could tell you all about it.
Yes, yes.
He's
a buff.
very well versed in such things.
I just want to say I'm looking at a picture of Muftia Talib, the maternal grandmother. Yeah.
She looks like she's seen some shit.
Honestly,
And also, she looks like with a little bit of makeup, she could be the best metalhead ever.
I think she's already got some on her face.
Yes.
Those are quite demonic. Yeah, okay. So, I'd heard a rumour. Oh, thank you, Sinai, for joining us and for the donation. I had heard a rumour that somebody did get into trouble. Was it Rashida Tlaib or was it Ilhan Omar?
Ilhan Omar. Well, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar both had reposted a comic recently, of which President Netanyahu basically covered the mouth of Rashida Tlaib, and Donald Trump had covered the mouth of Ilhan Omar, essentially trying to poke a satirical comment at this very instance, because Rashida Tlaib had sent this letter. Ilhan Omar was also supposed to go, but the point of their visit was actually not to visit Israel, but to visit Palestine.
Oh.
So you see, it would be a little bit different this way. But what's unusual, and what's actually part of this CNN article, of which this letter is being taken
I
from,
will link it to everyone in the chat.
is that Israel actually gave her permission to travel there. And then she said on the Friday after, she would not visit Israel after the country granted her permission for entry into the country on humanitarian grounds. I have decided that visiting my grandmother under these oppressive conditions stands against everything I believe in, fight against racism, oppression, and injustice, Tlaib said in a tweet, in a statement released shortly after her tweet when she said she has decided not to travel to the country. But it's weird. She offered those restrictions.
Right.
She literally said in the last sentence, I will respect any restrictions and will not promote boycotts against Israel during my visit. No one told you to fucking write that. You wrote it. And they were like, well, that sounds like a great deal. I'd love for you guys to come over here in a democratic way. And then they were like, no, fuck you. I can't believe you'd agree to that. Wait, what? Wait, no. That's not how this works.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Well, that's the thing, Hornio Hippos. I think she did have an interest in seeing her grandmother, but I think she kind of sent that letter out as a gotcha to the Israel government to see if they would just say no, and then she could point to them and be like, look at them, they're being racist or something.
I'll be honest with all that. I'm actually still somewhat surprised Ilhan Omar was willing to go. I'm sure she would have had to have gotten permission from her brother husband for that. I wanted to get that one in. I'm sorry, I've been holding on for like 2 minutes.
Well.
Okay, so they messed up.
Yeah, and so like that's been an ongoing thing. But the reason why Ilhan Omar and Tlaib got in trouble per se was because after they had put out that comic, even Jerry Nadler, our favorite Democratic chairman, even he said, y'all are being anti-Semitic. And at that point, when the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee is telling you are anti-Semitic, you're probably a dick.
Yeah, you need to stop. If even he's calling you out. Have they stopped since then?
No, they have not stopped.
Well, this is going to be fantastic. I can't wait for the re-election.
The problem is that you would expect that in a professional environment, you're a new person to the field and all that stuff. Maybe you say a couple things that are out of place,
Yeah.
and your supervisor comes over and says, "Hey, maybe you want to tone it down or whatever." And you go, "Yeah, I probably should do that. I do want to keep this job."
Yeah.
Not them, not them. Fuck that. For them, it's you can't tell me what to do.
I do what I want. Well, it's going to backfire on them. Although, I do agree with, and he's not the greatest source of information. He's very sensationalist. But I do have to agree with Paul Joseph Watson when he said that we need these people to stay because they're so entertaining. Because before these people were elected, in what was it, early this year or was it 2017?
It was earlier this year.
Right. Before they were elected, I couldn't tell
2018.
you any of the names of any congressmen. I really couldn't.
Oh, right, same. Like I could tell you my local people, maybe, and maybe some people who ended up on like CNN or Fox or whatever. But I know so much more about our fucking Congress people, and this was something that actually came up. I believe we talked about it once before.
Oh,
If nothing else, Trump's administration has brought everybody up in their understanding of our government.
actually, you got a point because more people are paying attention to the process because they're trying to find a way to get rid of him. But also, other people appreciate just what happens, and these more of these characters keep coming up. It's the same with our British politicians on leaving the European Union. Many could not have named any really, and yet they can name a considerable number now because of how utterly shambolic things have been. It's actually really amazing because people pay more attention now. I
I,
like
I
that.
think it's going to be a net benefit
I think it will
in
be.
time. I don't know if we'll see results of that
Hmm.
for quite a bit, but we may end up seeing it eventually. That people have an understanding of how our government works,
Hmm.
and then people can actually come up to a town hall meeting and, with education behind them, say, "I disagree with X, Y, and Z because of A, B, and C."
Yeah, I think this is
Which,
actually interesting.
I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. I love this.
And Stanton High says he has made it a reality TV show. People don't quite get it. I agree. In fact, I would take it a step further and say that he hasn't just stopped at reality TV. I'd say he's made it a WWE event.
Oh God,
Because
the
every time he
pantomime.
goes to a rally, the fucking chants in that auditorium, regardless of if it's negative or positive, that's some WWE level of engagement from the audience
What?
there.
You remember when he did a State of the Union and you sent me a video of him with the Stone Cold Steve Austin intro, right?
Yes.
You need to change that and have his head imposed over Stone Cold during a whole host of stunners, each one being different political leaders and things, and the Stone Cold music for it. Because
Yeah, I got copyright striked immediately
I
upon
know
posting that, by
there
the
was
way.
no way that wouldn't have gotten hit. But the with those events, you expect. I mean, it's not going to be too much of a stretch for there to be a Titantron in the future and fireworks when people walk out if they're well known enough. And it is more like reality TV. But people love reality TV because it's an absolute car wreck and people like car wrecks. Look at Internet Blood Sports, or sorry, its correct name, Irritable Bowel Syndrome. It just everyone loved
Yes.
it. Everyone loved it because it helped them do what they couldn't do before. Go for number two.
And honestly, think about how much people know about the backstories of WWE, right?
Mm-hmm.
People could tell you about the Attitude Era,
Yeah.
who was fighting who and why. Could you imagine if people had that level of knowledge about government?
Mm-hmm. That would be really spicy.
That would actually create a discourse that would actually be grounded in reality.
Yeah, I agree. That would actually make things more. And Stanton High's right. In conflict does hold interest. It's perfect.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah,
Mm.
conflict of interest. You're right.
And by the way, I'm not surprised. I was not surprised you got that copyright strike. I actually wondered how long it would take. I was going to put money on it.
Oh, literally less than 5 minutes.
Was it a strike or did they just?
Oh no, no, no. Copyright claimed.
Oh right, that's
Sorry.
alright then. You're not even monetized. I wonder how much they made off that then.
It's unlisted, so probably not a lot.
Ah, Screw you, WWE. You and your PG nonsense.
Yeah, now.
Yeah.
But you know what? I enjoyed. There was a SummerSlam event where Bray Wyatt came out again as the Demon, and that shit was cool.
His new gimmick, he has saved his career with that. I have been paying attention.
That was fucking dope. I saw that and I was like, man, I feel that. Yeah, and Kayla, Trump has his own official jam too. I believe it's Money.
Yeah, I would
I
also,
believe
I would,
is the song.
yeah, I think it is. Before we continue, I do want to say about Bray Wyatt. He had a good gimmick, and they ruined it.
Yeah, they did.
He has had to come back with something utterly, mind-blowingly better, and he has, which is fair because there isn't. Even though Finn Balor does a demon thing, he brings it out rarely. So we need someone who actually replaces Kane as a proper demon, and there you go.
Well, see, that was what I was in the feeling of when I saw him come out to like the distorted version of his original song, right? I saw that and I was just like, man, this is really reminiscent of old Undertaker and
Yeah.
like Kane.
They need those
from, like
characters.
real,
They need the
the
characters.
real edge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad they have. But I still don't watch
Yes,
much
I
of
agree.
it. I just pay attention to it.
Right, same. I don't really have the time to watch it.
No, I don't. I'm not watching 3 hours. Sorry, guys. Take it back to 2 and we're good.
Give me the highlights.
Yeah, give me the highlights. Skip over the duff matches. So most of the tag teams and the ladies. I said most, not all.
Yo, actually, I take it back. I will raise a point with that. The ladies have actually done remarkably well.
I did say most, not all, because there are some really good
Oh,
matches
I know,
going
I know.
on. But I mean the
Like
ones where
Paige is insane.
I'm only including the ones where it's actually a train wreck because they have zero chemistry. So those tag team matches are absolute car wrecks. Should
Let's
we
move
continue?
on.
Yes. Okay. So I want to talk about where is he? Him, leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn. This is all tied into the 67 days till Brexit thing because I think it's important. So currently Parliament's going through a summer recess. This summer recess is a waste of time. It is a waste of time because we're supposed to be negotiating our way out. And this, while giving MPs a chance to recharge their batteries, is utterly pointless. Because they are now wasting the extension that we got when they should be doing that. And so, in this time, Labour are being incredibly productive. And they are planning, or had been planning, a no-confidence vote in the UK government. Now, the plan was to get them the moment Parliament started with the no-confidence vote. But this has now been delayed until mid-September. The reason for this is an admission from them that support among the Tory rebels, those that are considered ardent Ramonas, has collapsed. Jeremy Corbyn was expected to table this immediately. The attempt being then to install himself as a caretaker Prime Minister. Now, he had written a letter to other political parties, senior backbenchers from across Parliament, with the intention to lay out a plan to stop this no-deal leaving and let the people then decide the future of the country. And he wrote a letter for this, which I couldn't put on the screen because I couldn't fit it and then have it so people could read it. But I will link the tweet. That is a long Twitter. I'm going to tiny URL that first. I do apologise, people, because that is far too long. We're not doing that. Copy that. Right, yes, so this is the tweet. The letter reads, "Last week I wrote to the Cabinet Secretary Mark Sedwill for his view on how Purdah rules would apply if Parliament is dissolved for a general election campaign that straddles the Brexit date of the 31st of October. Oh, I can't send the link. How interesting. Never mind.
Want to send it to me and see if I can do it?
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll DM it to you. Give me a second. There you go.
Damn you, YouTube.
Open the tweet and the link is ridiculously long. It's no, we're not doing that. I enclose a copy of this non-committal reply which I received yesterday, August 13th, and should inform of our discussions. While it is likely that the issue will be contested in the courts, sigh. Where is that? Oh yes. Our priority should be to work together in Parliament to prevent a deeply damaging no deal being imposed on the country, denying the voters the final say. Oh, I see what you did there. Nice.
I'm an engineer.
You're a genius. The government has no mandate for no deal. And and the 2016 EU referendum provided no mandate for no deal. I therefore intend to table a vote of no confidence at the earliest opportunity when we can be confident of success. Following a successful vote of no confidence in the government, I would then, as leader of the opposition, seek the confidence of the House for a strictly time-limited temporary government with the aim of calling a general election and securing the necessary extension of Article 50 to do so. In that general election, Labour will be committed to a public vote on the terms of leaving the European Union, including an option to remain. Right. Few problems with this. Oh, jeez, the Tommy thing, yeah. Give it time, he'll be out of prison soon anyway. So, contested in the courts. This is a comment related to Gina... Oh, I can't remember her bloody last name. But some stupid, a really annoying Ramona who is making a point. Get Ben Corbyn, indeed. Keeps on taking the government to court and winning against Theresa May quite a number of times. Because, well, she sucks at what she does. Just saying. So yeah, there's a chance no deal could be contested in the court in the sense that we might not get no deal if the courts then rule against a default? Yeah. No deal is not deeply damaging. Gina Miller, thank you, Horny Hippo, thank you, I appreciate that. The damaging no deal thing is scaremongery, and I'll get onto that later with G7 related stuff because I do have some stuff for that, and it's quite relevant. Comments about the EU referendum providing no mandate for no deal. You're right, because the mandate for no deal is leave. We voted to leave, therefore no deal is... Oh, it's mandated. So yes, it was mandated, but not explicitly no deal. But it is still, hello, we are here, and John and Otaka Game Judas. Hope you're all well. Therefore, that's nonsense. Tabling vote of no confidence, we know that's not going to happen now. Successful vote of no confidence, install himself as a caretaker. The thing with this is, there are a lot of people with tinfoil hats are starting to think that perhaps it's not the case that he's going to install himself as a caretaker. He's looking for any excuse to become Prime Minister, to stay there then longer than he says he will, because if he can survive a vote of no confidence like the way he did, he can survive being Prime Minister for 10 years that he wants to be Prime Minister for, so he can bring in this utopia he believes he can bring in. He believes an extension to Article 50 is needed. No, it isn't. Accepting the result and enacting it is important.
For the Americans who have heard a lot of articles, can you remind me what Article 51 was?
Sorry?
Can you remind me what Article 50 was?
Article 50 is a part of the Lisbon Treaty. It is a part that... oh, hang on. Give me a sec. I had a brain...
I couldn't remember if it was the backstop or not.
No, that's withdrawal agreement. Yeah, that was agreed upon in the December Joint Report of 2017. It was a suggestion brought forward by Theresa May in the event that we needed a transition period, that it would then be introduced as a ways to keep the Northern Ireland part of the EU and therefore keep services running as if nothing had changed. And protected the Good Friday Agreement. The Article 50 is a direct reference to members leaving the EU through the Lisbon Treaty, which is normal. Got it.
Yeah. Got it. Y'all don't name your shit really well.
We didn't name that. I would have called it Tarquinius. There's a reference here for including an option to remain. That isn't him outright saying remain, I should be clear. However, the fact he's even said that tells me he is not fit for office. I had this discussion yesterday while fishing. Some people came by, and one was just watching people fish, and he was talking about how he felt that his vote had now become worthless because the party he supposedly should be voting for is no longer representing the workers, and him being a taxi driver felt betrayed because this man is not doing what not doing right by the people that he's supposed to represent, instead favouring the middle to upper middle classes, the same people he would want to then tax into the ground. Which
is this news to anybody though?
No.
Like the idea that the Labour Party and our Democratic Party have been trying to platform themselves on the party of the people, right? And yet, the people who end up voting these people are usually the very well-off, the very high-end individuals. And the workers usually end up going for conservatives because the conservatives believe in lower tax rates for those people. Because the working class flows in and out of the middle class. So whenever they say they're raising the taxes on the middle class or the upper middle class, that is a worker's family. So I have a very strange feeling about why people still believe that Labor and Democrats are the people's party when they have shown themselves to be nothing but elitist and classist.
It's quite amusing for a guy whose party is the Workers' Party to do that. The letter he had sent at the time, back on the 14th, was to Ian Blackford, the paper pervert, Joe Swinson, the Lib Dem leader, a bunch of Plaid Cymru Welsh ministers, Labour ones no less, Caroline Lucas, leader of the Green Party, so one, Dominic Grieve, Oliver Letwin, Nick Bowles, and Caroline Spellman, all massive Ramonas. Dominic Grieve being the most well-known Ramona, to the point where he has tabled a number of amendments to try and get us to essentially remain. I can't abide these people. The funny thing with the tweet that you all have access to on the Tiny Roll that Traps very kindly put in the chat is that Femi, very well-known Remainer, he has a bit of a discussion with Tracy Ann Oberman about this, about how Corbyn has no credibility or leadership power, and yet he's expecting other parties to back him, and it's quite an interesting back and forth. So yeah, I would just definitely make a point, recommend you all check that out. I don't think Labour are going to table the motion of no confidence. I think if they do, they're screwed. People who've come out against this would include the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, who has even said that the idea of a caretaker government is nothing more than self-indulgent madness. I think what did he actually say? He said that Corbyn, Sturgeon, Swinson should stop wasting time filling government positions that are not vacant, and compared them to Nero fiddling while Rome burned. That's
pretty accurate, actually.
Brown was useless as Chancellor because he just spent. But I've got to respect him for at least being honest enough to say that. I know people will say, "Oh, you're irrelevant. You're irrelevant." Yes, thank you, Rice Gum. But he's actually right. Number one, I don't know if that's true. Corbyn might have 4 mil in the bank. He might, but I think Johnson has a lot more. I'm pretty sure it's at least got a 0 on his. He comes from a very wealthy background, unless he's given a load of it away or just blown it. Then again, 2 mil in the bank is still a lot of money, so just saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I wouldn't scoff at either of those numbers in my opinion.
I think Corbyn's net worth, because his house, even though it doesn't look great, because it's in Islington North, it's worth $1 million. And I'm sure he doesn't pay a mortgage on that anymore. He's lived there long enough. He probably bought it when it was a lot cheaper as well. So, not that it matters, but it does make you think. But then we know enough to know about certain socialist types who have millions and many properties or live in mega mansions. Don't we, Traps? Cough, cough, Sanders, cough, cough.
Indeed.
Yes. I will link, for those who are interested, the Gordon Brown article in the chat. Brown he's doing quite well for himself, actually, and I have to respect him for doing something after being Prime Minister. Even though he was only Prime Minister for... Actually, he was essentially a caretaker Prime Minister, because he was screwed the moment Blair left. What else is there? Oh, yes, so moving on from all that, we may as well talk about it. Boris Johnson recently attended this, the G7 in France. Now, I have a better image. It's this one. Now, you might not be able to see it clearly, but on that picture, where is it? Hang on, I've got it on my screen here. So, before I go into this picture, actually, there's something I wanted to talk about. It was actually something amusing. Just popped up on my phone just before we even started, and there was a Macron. He invited Iran's foreign minister to the G7 summit, which kind of defeats the point, really. Because in this picture on the screen, with Tusk looking very weird, we've got Emmanuel Macron, Angela Merkel, Justin Trudeau, Boris Johnson, Giuseppe Conte, Shinzo Abe, and Donald Trump. G7 being the 7 biggest economies, essentially. But I don't quite understand why Donald Tusk is there. Because in reality, in that picture, there's 8 people, and he's not a nation. So why is he there? This was supposed to be a meeting as a chance, and Macron wanted it to be, a chance for them to discuss climate issues. That was the main point of this one. With Brazil being key, because obviously now people are finally starting to talk about the fires going on in Brazil. Now, there are conflicting reports on that one, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. Some saying it's caused by the people as a means to clear land to build farms on it. I'm not going to say that's not true. I'm saying that's what's been said. Another is saying it happens all the time anyway, and that's why no one's acting on it. I'm not going to...
If Omegon doesn't want to put his weight behind...
Yes, you both, you do that, go on.
I'm going to put my weight behind the second one, because there was an article that came out that actually looked at the satellite images over the last, I think it was 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And actually we have less fires now than we did before. So it actually seems more like a complaint about the Bolsonaro government than it does
right.
the complaint about actual fires.
Now,
this is...
I just want to, before you continue, just say that I haven't looked into it enough to know that. I just wanted to say that. But you Bowens, carry on.
But no, that's it. It's just...
Oh, okay.
Take heed as to what you read.
That's fair. In the picture, anyway, you've got 7 major leaders and Donald Tusk, who, I'll be honest, unless he's chairing it, he has no real place being there. This is, by the way, one of the cringiest pictures I've ever seen. I love that all of them are smiling, except for Donald Tusk. He's literally pulling the grumpiest picture ever. It's amazing. I mean, you really can't see it, but let's see if I can make it bigger. Hang on, where is it? G7.
I'm kind of like thrown off because...
Why is that?
My OCD is like freaking out about the unevenness of these chairs.
Yeah, don't. They're not spaced equally. I love it. If you look close enough, you've got a few laughters, a few smiles, and then you've got Donald Trump pulling a little smirk. Alright, so we're going to make it bigger. Make it bigger.
Yeah,
see? It's... I don't... This is just so cringy. And then... grumpy. All happy, though. This ended up becoming... And the reason I've got the picture of Tusk and Johnson together is because this ended up becoming a bit of a messy one, because that became the main talk. And that was these two. And Trump, of course, but this was a big deal because, yeah, Boris has made a few statements about Brexit. He said that the chances of Brexit or a deal are touch and go, and the odds of a no deal were 1,000,000 to 1. He's also stressed that they're not paying in the event of no deal the $39 billion. In fact, it's unlikely they'll pay it even if we get a deal, because it's a load of nonsense. And during the meetings, there are a number of videos of Trump stating what he thinks of Johnson. He believes he's the right man for the job. He believes that a deal can be agreed upon. Boris has had to actually lay some red lines down when it comes to trade. Certain things we cannot do, like we can't negotiate on the NHS. That's not happening. He's outright publicly said that now, which is great, because that will hopefully be one less thing for Labour to moan about when it comes to PMQs in a couple of weeks' time. Actually, I'm quite excited for that. Also, the argument about the backstop. Macron has said that it is indispensable. We have to have the backstop, and that the UK, that everyone EU has to respect that the UK voted to quit, which I think is a big statement as well, because not many nations have actually they say they respect it, but then their actions would contradict it. Germany are a perfect example. Thank you for that. The argument being with the indispensable backstop was that it is supposedly to preserve political stability. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's a case that you're just looking for any excuse to keep a country in the EU. I think if there was a thing where a nation could be a bargaining chip, you've turned turned the Northern Ireland into one of them. Like, can you imagine negotiating your let's say take your state, yeah? But let's say as a part of your state, you own, let's say, another state, yeah? Let's say North and South, yeah? It's just hypothetical. And as a part of your exit, you now have to give up the other state. Essentially. Is that acceptable when you own it?
Well, no, because it's mine.
Yeah, Northern Ireland is ours, and yet we're expected to essentially give it up. It's the same with Gibraltar.
I don't like the idea that we have to negotiate with people.
No, I don't either. I think it's because
people
of...
are not a commodity.
No. But apparently they are. And I think...
Well, they are to a totalitarian regime that intends to take over the entire European.
Well, that's also
continent.
why I don't support Tusk being there, because it was meant to be an environmental thing and trade-related stuff. Him being there took the attention away from it and brought Brexit to the front. I don't want that there. And he has no place to be there. He is not the leader of any large nation-state economy. No, he's a part of, as you said, an egalitarian.
Yeah, no. I started saying that, but that's because that's what I usually go for. But then I realized, no, I'm talking about the other people.
Yeah. I don't think he had a place to be there, and I thought the interaction between these two, it was cold and awkward. There is a video, I will, where is it? Ah, yes, let's put this in the chat for you all. It's a video on the article that should help you all. The intention is that they might meet again before September 1st, when all meetings will end in New York, but it depends. It really does depend on whether or not the EU is going to budge on the backstop. If they don't, then we are simply walking away, and it will be sparing. Okay, so the G7 summit, while it being the meeting of the largest economies, it's going to be a really awkward one, because we don't know where we're going to be when we leave, which is where Trump has actually actively said that the whole trade thing is going to be escalated, and that I support that. I think it's a brilliant idea to get this moving. I'm a bit disappointed at how all the let's call them Remainers are acting in this, because their first thing is to jump on standards of US trade. The fact that did you know, by the way, Trups, if I ever sent you a tape measure in the post and you happen to be on a military base, you'd never receive it, because that's not allowed.
Wait, why?
I don't know. It's something you guys have on your end.
Is it because it's not a fucking, like, American measurement?
I think so.
What the fuck? We
Yeah.
have meter sticks.
Yeah, we have some stupid rules here, but that's one of yours. I found that out recently. But
We have
it's
yardsticks that double as meter sticks because there's just the other side of it has different tick marks.
we actually have those as well, by the way. So it really doesn't
Yeah,
make
because
sense to
they're
me.
about the same.
Doesn't make any sense to me at all. They are really just about the same. And I
They're
think
like
it,
off.
yeah. I think personally that with the discussions already being escalated the way they are, I think the idea that we're going to crash out the way that people think we are is absolute scaremonger of the highest order. I think the meetings that have already happened, the intention to have more meetings in the near future with Trump, already shows that this is going to happen. There's going to be a trade deal and it's going to be done quickly. Maybe it won't cover the entire deficit, but that's the whole point of trying to be, and I'll quote Boris, confident, outlooking Britain.
At this point, I would just rather see the UK government just go, you know what? Let's just take up Trump on his offer because he's the only one who's been offering us something good.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's talk about like arguing between what the EU is offering
Mm-hmm.
and what the US is offering. If you argue that you will lose your sovereignty as a nation and those individual, let's say, states, provinces, whatever, that you guys own will also lose their sovereignty or be fully surrendered to the EU, or increase trade with the United States, another member of the G7, who is not subject to such restrictions, who also has a booming economy, even despite people complaining about a possible recession. But of course, they're only saying that because it's election cycle time. So, I mean, why not? Why not actually talk about the people who are like, hey, you want more money
Mm-hmm.
instead of less? I don't know. That just seems like,
They just think it's a risk.
big brain politics right there.
They think it's too dangerous. They think it's not safe, forgetting that the EU's current economy is at best a cooking pot that's ready to boil. It's just not. It's going to evaporate away. There'll be nothing left. This with the trade peace. Oh, okay. So something else Boris had said was that he preferred trade peace to hiking tariffs in reference to your president's remarks about China. Nothing wrong with a little difference of opinion on that. I'm not going to judge what your president's doing because I just don't care enough. I mean, if it gets China to back down a bit, then so be it.
We already have.
The meeting with Trump and Tusk has also added fuel to a fire, right? The fuel to the fire being that there could, within a few weeks, be a snap general election. Because a few other things have happened. Johnson has already said he's planning to slash fuel duty in an emergency no-deal budget, which would then pave way for a poll. The likelihood of a snap election, according to a YouGov poll from the Sunday Times, puts the Conservative Party 12 points ahead of Labour on 33% in Westminster voting intention. So, based on some polls at the moment, there is a chance he could actually win the next election. Although I think he will anyway because of what he's been doing since he took it. And if he does that, well, it's mad to do it. If he wins, Corbyn has to step down, which is a huge deal. If he loses, he doesn't have to leave office until after anyway. He can set the timetable for when he leaves. Based on the time frame, there isn't enough time for an election to happen, because it would take a couple of weeks for it to be organised and set up. Let's think about this. We leave on October, 31st? Okay, so if we go back in on the 1st September, 2 weeks later he's called the general election. 1st October, maybe mid-October, we have the election. But he doesn't have to leave straight away. In fact, he has a transition period of up to 12 weeks even, before he has to do anything. So he wins, all he does is secure his seat for 5 years, which, I'll be honest, would be better for him than the 3 years he's got. But he has 3 years at least to try and improve upon whatever comes of leaving the European Union, if at all. we have 67 days, as the title of this stream says. The EU are claiming a few things. They believe that even if we leave a no deal, that we should still pay 39 billion to them. They'd be lucky to get a Mars bar and a 10-cent Canadian. So I think it's quite dangerous what's going on right now. I think the EU are going to have to blink first, because I'm not convinced that Boris would be the first to do it. I think if it happens, Boris is going to trade with the US and it will happen like that. I think a trade deal with Canada could be agreed quite fast as well, for that matter. And a few other nations, I believe, in Asia that have already stated interest in trade, including India. Well, that's not surprising, since I believe they're part of the Commonwealth, aren't they? Or is it Pakistan? Is it India or Pakistan that are part of the Commonwealth? I think they both are.
Commonwealth of what?
The Commonwealth. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Of whose country?
No, the Commonwealth is a group of nations with the UK. It's kind of like the EU, but around the world. Canada, Australia, India, Pakistan, a bunch of African nations. Yeah, it's a big deal for us over here. Because they all essentially have the Queen on their money. Yeah, the Queen's quite popular. Shame she can't travel there anymore. I think the EU will budge on the backstop, and I think they'll agree because they have nothing left. If they can't agree to it, then they risk huge economic problems, and I would like to believe they're not stupid enough to endanger their supposed state nonsense. Federal whatever government, or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be they blink first, I think. Will the EU collapse like the UK? And I should address this. No, they won't. They will suffer a huge budget deficit. They will suffer economically, of course. But I believe there's a chance that they could survive. But to do so would require huge, monstrous investment from France and Germany. And I say them because they're the only two really with any money. I know Italy were at that meeting, the G7, but they don't have much money really. And so while economy in Germany is doing well, they'd have to put a phenomenal amount of money into the EU to keep it afloat, while other nations sought ways to fix it, or trade deals could be agreed upon to fix the damage done. But it's a 50-50 really that they could survive. We are a big economy. We are the second biggest, I believe. I think France is third and Germany tops us. And we're only second because, well, we had a huge budget deficit and debt to deal with. And that whole, austerity.
Which isn't really the current government's fault anyway.
No, it isn't. It's the fault of a previous government, a party of which wants to be a caretaker government, and only for that reason, of course. Not totally take over, because that doesn't happen, does it? In some kind of
See, I watch your fucking videos. I know shit.
I've been making them quite short on this channel on purpose, just because I wanted to try and test this idea of sticking to fact, and I think without giving too much opinion and waffle, I think it's working. I think more and more people are coming over here to watch politics, and I like that.
Huzzah!
Thank you. We're not at the hour mark, but I do need to set up another stream soon. So is there anything you'd like to talk about or shill before we finish?
Not a whole lot. I plan to be, at Dragon Con this coming weekend, so we probably won't be able to do a political recap, but we'll be able to resume in the second week of September. The first week of September.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about what I got.
Okay, well, I'm going to be streaming some Euro Truck on the Omegon Plays channel. It's going to be open mic, so people on my server can just join the voice chat and keep me awake. I've been up since 6. I kind of want to do this because I wasn't able to on Thursday because I end up playing Rocket League on Twitch, I believe. So I'll link it now in the chat. Do consider coming by if you are at all interested in watching a very calm game. So I think we're done. There will be a video out on this channel tomorrow on Jared O'Mara, because there's an update to his situation, and I think it's quite interesting. So thank you all very much for joining us. Say goodnight, Trops.
Good night, Trops.
Good night, Trops.